today's guest here is Nancy St. Germaine with Raven Construction, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I want to talk about the first time I met you. We met for coffee in Uptown, and I just have to set this story because I was a project manager at Grinder Construction for many years, and that was my life, and I took pride in that. I felt like I understand how to schedule a job site or a project. I know how to schedule a job site ultimately. I run work and lead meetings and was really confident in that role in construction. And then we both showed up on time, we were prompt, and you get out of your work truck and you had on your work boots. And the whole thing, and I'm like, okay, so not only does Nancy, can she do what I do, but she can like actually do the work. And is that true? Like you can do.
I do the work. Yeah.
Do you want to do the work?
I love to do the work. I love it. That's part of my challenge is that it's hard for me to get out of the field.
Yeah.
I still love to use my hands and be a part of changing the environment and working with the clients and helping to train my staff and yeah, I love everything about construction.
I thought that was really cool, and I can tell that you are passionate about the work that you do. So,
thanks.
If you'd be so kind, will you tell me a little bit about how Raven started?
Let's see. I was working, I transitioned from multifamily housing development to commercial development and decided that I did not like the development world. It was too political for me. So I got into construction. Turns out everything's political. The air we breathe is political. So I didn't get away from it. I just jumped into a different pot. But what I did discover working in the commercial development world is that I really enjoyed working with entrepreneurs and small businesses and helping them to launch their first, brick and mortar space and helping them to actualize their vision. So when I transitioned out of asset management in the commercial development world, that's when I launched Raven in 2015.
That's awesome. Can you remember your first project, who that was with?
Oh my gosh. I was transitioning with Seward Redesign, and I did a couple of big projects for them locally, Soberfish, Steady Tattoo, Bees Knees, some sweet little projects locally. After that, I worked with Cappy USA, a nonprofit food bank that works with immigrant communities and helping them to find resources and work and all of those things. Pillsbury United, Brian Coyle Center. So.
And these are all, you live in South Minneapolis?
Correct.
Right. In which neighborhood?
Bryant neighborhood.
Bryant neighborhood. And were all these projects within that community?
Very much, yep.
Yeah.
Most of them all in South Minneapolis, one in Brooklyn Park as they expanded. So I've been very fortunate to be able to work in my community and work in the nonprofit sector and the private sector. So.
And that says a lot too, because you're going to see your community all the time. So then that you're kind of on the spot. Like, then do they go to you and say, hey, we have a plumbing problem? Nancy, come on.
We have a leak. We have a roofing leak. What do? We have a plumbing problem. And so a lot of times we'll run out there and we'll fix it, because they're friends, And we're very family oriented with our clients. That's just kind of how that goes, when you're with somebody for so long. And then, and just help them connect.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
We talked that Raven started in 2015, and sorry, we might not have said that when we were talking on the podcast, but when we were talking earlier, but Raven began in 2015.
Yeah. And
at that point, you were scrappy. Like, you were doing what you could to, would you say, like, survive, like, to make ends meet?
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, I was making it up as I went along. I was learning how to own and run a construction company. I didn't have experience really running a construction company. I came from the development world. What I found is that there were a lot of contractors that didn't do a great job, that weren't honorable, and I was like, well, I can do it at least that well, and ideally better. So I just had to learn the industry. So I've learned, the insurance and the bidding and every last part of it, the estimating process. So.
But that you said self-taught, right?
Self-taught.
You figured that out.
Yeah.
And then was it important to you, or tell me this, do you have the women-owned business designation or small business?
I do.
Or, okay.
Yep, I have the DBE, the TGB, the MBE, and the WBE.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah,
and was that a difficult process?
Oh, it's incredibly trying. Yeah, it's a lot of energy, especially when you're starting out. If you haven't done it already or done it before and you don't have someone to guide you, it takes a lot of time to figure it out, to come up with the paperwork, to get all the financial documents together and to really prove that you actually have the skills and capacity to do it. When I first applied for my DBE, I was denied as a general contractor. And so I had to really fight and prove that I did have the actual skills, that I could frame and hang and finish tape and trim and tile and do all this stuff that I had been doing for 15 years already. I had to show that I actually had, a garage full of tools.
That's what you had to show. I thought they were going to make you like hang sheetrock or something and do it.
I thought they might.
To that point.
But I had to really raise a fuss and fight really aggressively.
And did you feel like you needed those certifications to start your business?
It was my understanding that I needed them. I haven't actually ever used them.
Okay, I've heard that before, so I'm curious.
Which is kind of frustrating, but I maintain them. Once you get them, it's easier to maintain them than it is to let them go. Changing your designations with your skills is different. So as you grow, it's you have to provide proof that or a certification that you know how to trim. Well, there's no such thing. So how do you get it? So it's a challenge. There's a lot of hurdles along the way, but you push on.
And what do you mean, like you haven't used them? So no, you haven't been any of the work that you've done. Those certifications haven't been necessary.
Correct.
That's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's still, you feel it's important to maintain and keep them.
I think it is. In large part, just because it puts you on a list with the cert, and different entities know that you exist. You do get solicited by a number of larger contractors to act as a sub. We don't sub anything at this time, though we're considering it as we grow and have.
You don't sub anything.
We don't sub anything.
Do you sleep at night?
No, I don't. I basically work from 3 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night when I can't stand up anymore. Yeah.
When you were in the office not too long ago, Spencer was like, "Did you see that her work boots were worn out at the toe? Do you know what that means, Heather?" And I was like, "No, because I don't know how to do the work." He goes, "That means that she is tiling herself. She is sheetrocking herself. She's on her hands and knees doing the work." And I'm like, I get that. Like, do you want me to help her? Like, what?
I need a nap. Just give me a blankie. Yeah,
I can sheetrock. I can do that, and I can back butter tile.
See?
So I can help you
it's
there.
Important.
But
thanks.
that's
I'll
about
call
it.
on you.
Okay, so then I guess explain to me, where's Raven at now? Then from 2015, where are you at now, and why are you still working, and why don't you sub that out?
I take
kind of loaded a question.
So many things. Let's see here. Raven. So Raven has grown from me and 2 other staff to a staff of 10 since the events of George Floyd. We've grown from being a $750,000 company to a 2+. Verging on 5 million, depending on if contracts come through. So we're being offered significantly larger contracts, and so we're being forced to grow significantly faster. I really enjoy working in the field. I enjoy training staff. I enjoy growing my team, and I take a lot of pride in self-performing what we do. And frankly, I'm kind of a control freak, so I like to control the schedule.
You're good at
and
it.
If I have staff, then I can control the schedule, and be less dependent on subs.
Yeah.
So.
Understood, but at some point, like as you grow, it's going to get more and more difficult for you to be everywhere.
That's a huge part of, the Griner in, mentorship relationship is that you showed up just in time for me, because I was at a point where I was like, I don't know what to do next. I'm at a loss.
You had a $2 million contract, right?
Yep. I was bidding $5 million that was offered in a 1-week time span. So that was a huge amount of work to bid in one time, at one time. And I was at a point where I don't know what to do next. Who do I hire next? Do I hire an estimator, a project manager, a field soup? Like, what do I do next? But I needed someone to help guide me and to bounce ideas off of, to get some feedback, just to help me process these larger contracts, just the legal part, the estimates. So it was a lot to manage, a lot of growth to, process.
Yeah, and Griner's learning too a lot from you. It's been really fun to see just us progress in that relationship and still kind of figuring out what it looks like and how we can help each other. And I think the biggest surprise from us that we learned from you, and it really helped evolve how we've been bidding to our MBE, WBE, all of our subs that have that certification, is that you guys are bombarded with. You could have all the work in the world right now, and like we said, we contribute that a lot to George Floyd, George Floyd's murder. And it's great. It's about time, right, that this has happened or that this change is happening. But the thing is, how do you staff it? How do you respond? Or I think I read an article that Kat brought me about federal government work, and that it costs money. I think people forget it costs money to put a bid together. And you're on these lists. You can do the work. The government wants to spend their money on women-owned business, but to bid all of those jobs would take, again, you're not sleeping already because you're doing the work. So how are you going to do it all? So what is your biggest need right now? Like what do you need to be successful?
You know, I think one of the biggest hurdles for small businesses and small contractors in general is capacity. Most of us are self-taught, or we come from working in the field and we've had some success, or we're aging out of being able to work in the field, and so we're trying to grow that. And we're looking at the next generation. What are the challenges that we've experienced? What are they experiencing? And how do we help resolve some of those issues? Specifically, with women and people in the minority community. How do we empower one another? And so it's how do we help grow each other's skills around bookkeeping and estimating and reviewing contracts and protecting ourselves, insurance, benefits. It's having working capital. Banks have had a hard time being able to provide working capital for small, businesses, entrepreneurs, contractors specifically. There's a few nonprofits that can help with that, but the interest rates are high. So it makes it untenable for us to be able to grow into those contracts.
Yeah, with big contracts comes liability, right? Yeah, it can be really scary.
Getting bonded at, $3 million from, not needing a bond ever. It takes time, it takes history, a working relationship.
Do you have we don't have to keep this on record, but this is just more of a question right now. Do you have a relationship with a banking institution that you just use all the time that you've had to develop over the years?
I have a banking relationship with two different banks. One is a Sunrise Banks. They do a lot of work with small businesses. That's sort of their niche. And then also U.S. Bank has been really aggressive with being able to support the growth of my companies. I've been able to branch out and,
No, time out. You said companies.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
So, I own Raven Construction. I also own Raven Property Management. I own Jack's Hardware and Farm Supply in South Minneapolis. That's the other half of our passion that my husband and I own to support, self-sustainability and what's the word? Access to food justice and helping to support. We're trying to, live by example and lead by example. So my different, the entities that I own are ultimately about supporting community, So yes, the goal is to make money and have stability and, create some wealth, but it's also to create wealth for other people, all of my staff, to create opportunities and to demonstrate that there's alternatives, to some of the challenges that our youth experience.
How amazing. Why are you so passionate about this? Because now as I described you being a badass out in the field, and then now hearing your philanthropic efforts, I'm feeling really inadequate over here.
I'm a workaholic.
I know. And you found a partner a spouse that keeps up with this energy and has this passion.
He's kind of the rock, and then I'm just kind of the one that spins. I'm bees, and I just come back to him. So he supports me and lets me be wild beast in the field.
Sorry, that's really beautiful.
I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
He's very patient with me. But what was your question though? About well, I was raised by a single mom. You know, I'm Native American. You know, Turtle Mountain Ojibwe, and there's a lot of challenges in that community around alcoholism and diabetes and a number of other issues, and you know, violence and you know, things of that nature. And so rather than succumb to some of those things, you know, we work hard in our family. That was our response to those challenges. And rather than succumbing to alcoholism, we just stay busy. And that's how we manage it in our family. Workaholics. Yeah, workaholicism. Yeah. But also, you know, I want to make sure that I'm supporting an alternative in the Native community. So we work with a few different, you know, nonprofit Native CDCs, you know.
Then what, do you mentor them? Like, are you open to mentorship? And do you have time to do that?
We do. You know, I work with a number of small business owners that are branching out their first time. So, you know, a lot of weekends folks will come to the house and we'll help them start, you know, businesses on the Secretary of State and get their tax ID numbers and go through their next steps of getting their different certifications and, you know, how to use QuickBooks. So we're all just trying to help each other all the time. But then I have those same mentors that help me, right? So I can lean on, you know, Tri Construction and KMS Construction and be like, okay, you know, big brothers, tell me what's next for me. What should I do next, you know? And so really it's just about supporting one another.
What do you see for the future of small businesses?
It's hard to say, you know, but I think there's a hope and a desire and a mission. I know that with the Association of Minority Contractors, we're really driven to be reaching out to the larger contractors to help support us in our growth, you know, in the same way that we've been able to get that support independently, but now as an organization to be thinking sort of at a larger, more global scale, but here locally.
How can, I mean, we have our partnership and it's working really well with the mentorship. How else can large corporations help smaller businesses, you think?
I think they've got to get out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
They need to look farther, look deeper at what's available, who's out there. After the uprising with George Floyd, I was working with Lake Street Council and working with a number of large contractors and small businesses, and the one thing that I heard on the regular was that we didn't know there were so many minority contractors out there. There's so many that we've never met that have so much capacity. So I've been honored to help to get everybody connected and networked and hopefully grow those pools of contractors. But with that, you know, is a lot of, you know, hope and direction to those larger contractors. Like, help them to get their contracts, you know, that's mutually beneficial. Help them to bid it. Help them to be informed, you know. So
it was a huge eye-opener. I mean, we would have a project that would have some certification requirements, and we would send out our email, a bid invite, and we're like, okay, we highlight the subs on our bid list that meet all those requirements, and we just send out this blast. And hope that just assume, well, they'll respond, they need the work. And it's like, no, well, they don't, because they have plenty of work going on. We haven't done anything to build a relationship with those subcontractors. We're only bidding to them when it's in those requirements. We didn't realize, like, it was a get out of your comfort zone, have an aha moment. How is the rebuilding of Lake Street going?
You know, I think it's going to be it's still a long process. There's a number of challenges with the immigrant community having proper insurance, having enough access to capital. COVID was not helpful. You know, there was a loss of business income, so being able to refinance, you know, the build of a new structure. But a lot of CDCs are stepping up to help support, you know, legally, you know, everybody's really stepping up. And it's been, I think, a fair amount of success, but with some long-term challenges that I think are going to be hard conversations for a long time.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not going to happen overnight.
It's not going to happen overnight. I think really staying focused to local ownership so that larger developers don't come in and buy up those spots, and we lose, I guess, the soul of Lake Street. We want to make sure that we continue to protect what we have and what really made Lake Street special, in so many parts of our community that were affected by that.
I hope that happens. It has to. It will. Well, if people like you are out there helping, and let us know how we can help.
We'll all
too.
do our part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a few questions for you about currently what you're working on at Raven. So what are some of the core areas of construction that you are working on? What areas, like what markets do you work well in?
I really enjoy the nonprofit CDC. I work with a couple of different food shelves and urban farms locally. We are currently bidding an 8,000 square foot aquaponic farm. That'll be in the Phillips neighborhood.
Okay.
A rooftop greenhouse in the Seward neighborhood. And then we have a brewery in St. Paul and a distillery in Northeast Minneapolis that we're looking at. So we have a pretty vast
I'd say
catalog of projects we like to work on.
hydroponic farm to distillery to tattoo parlor to
office remodel in between.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then I want to know what makes your organization different from other construction companies?
I think one thing that we do differently, and this is just what's been shared with me, is a lot of my clients are women in power, right? They're executive directors, frequently women of color, and so they're looking to have someone that is on their side, not necessarily someone that is talking down to them, talking above their head, but someone that can work side by side, educate, be respectful. And that for me is a huge gold star for us.
I think that women do so well in the construction industry, and specifically like project management, because we can help kind of speak that language or help them understand a little bit, soften it a little bit. So
guide.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. So I can totally get on board with that, and I think more women should be in the construction industry. You guys reach out to Nancy or I.
I would say we also have an apprenticeship program that we've launched so that we can help to train more folks in the construction
that Raven
field.
has. Now that's outside of the union because you are not
outside of the union.
So
we're not
that's
a
just
signatory.
your own. And how do you put it out there that you have that apprenticeship program?
We get contacted pretty regularly for opportunities for employment. Folks want to support the values and missions of Raven. They want to work with the types of clients that we work with. They want to support the work that we do and the way that we do it. And so it just became sort of crucial that we had an apprenticeship program so that we can further support the growth of those employees.
I love that. And then how does your organization meet or exceed client expectations? I think you kind of answered that a little bit with your listening and just being a better listener.
Meet and exceed, get the job done, keep it on budget, get it done on time, be friends at the end.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to do when you're working with the people in your neighborhood, and like we discussed before. So I think we believe in long-lasting relationships with our clients, and
it's crucial.
Yeah. Our next podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about pre-construction and just how that sets up a project for success, and just everyone's on the same page, the project runs smoother. Do you work in that capacity, like pre-construction? Will you be a partner right away with the project? Yeah.
Yep. I think it's important to have the general contractor involved from the beginning, including at the design process, so that you can work through the kinks and point out potential challenges. You know, every step is a challenge, and every part is, it's a science and art. And so making sure that the two merge and line up is important.
Raven and Greiner want to make a difference, no matter the specific field, whether it's nonprofit, healthcare, or corporate office space. We want to collaborate and partner with organizations and corporations that want to make a difference too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you summed that up. And
ultimately, I think the beauty of the relationship between Raven and Greiner is that we share values. We share a goal to do better, for our communities, to be a part of the work that we do and the part of the communities we want to represent I think, the shared values of our clients.
Agreed. We want to look like the community that we serve. We want to
Exactly.
grow and
Be
better.
of and for, not to.
Yeah.
You know.
That was it. Did we get that? Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Nancy, for letting me pick your brain.
Thanks for having me.
I think, actually, I do have one last question.
Yeah.
In practice, in my opinion, is an opportunity to always be bettering yourself or doing better or to be learning and growing. What do you do to learn and grow and to be better?
I think the hardest part of just life and being a business owner and being human is just learning to listen, you know, and let your own assumptions and ego sit on the back burner and just allow other people's stories and truths to be just that, you know. And I think from that we can grow and be humbled and learn.
Love. Let's end on that. That was amazing. Thank you.
Thanks.
God.